If you go to somebody's house, Alyssa, and they ask you if you want some water, what do you say?
I usually say like a polite decline. What about you?
I always say yes.
All right. My name is Alyssa,
My name is Angel.
and welcome to Words No Wisdom. Today's topic is mastering the skill of receiving, which is something that I think Dad has been teaching me about, especially with these past couple years in high school with like dating and everything. I haven't really, like, at first learning about this skill was something like life shattering to me. Do you want to explain what we mean by the skill of receiving?
Well, I have a very specific. I have learned this. I don't know from who, but I always say, or I always accept when somebody offers certain things like gum or water, like we said at the very beginning. In addition to that, when receiving gum, it's something that is fairly minute. It's not going to require you to have to give something back to the person immediately or feel like you have, that you're beholden to having to reciprocate. And at the same time, it makes the other person feel good. I know, I, I believe, I have never done research on this, but I think it's a cultural thing to have to say no when somebody offers you something right away. In my case, especially in my business, when somebody offers me, especially if it is a client, I always say yes, especially if it's like a cup of coffee or donut. And then I am very, very gracious about it. So I think if somebody is willing to give it, just imagine what happens when you offer something to somebody as small as a cup of coffee, a piece of candy. If you're doing that, it's because you want to give something, and it's nice to have somebody be able to say, "Oh yes, thank you," and make it super simple. That's my take on it. What about you?
Agreed. I agree. I just think it gets really complicated when you're not really sure if they're offering just to be polite or they're offering because they genuinely want to give that to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if somebody's like, oh, like I can pay for your dress down day money at my school for Fridays. We pay $1 for dress down days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are they actually offering that because they want to do something kind to you, or do they just feel like, oh, she's scrambling for $1, let me try to be nice?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or something like that, where it's like, I can't tell if this is just trying to do a polite gesture and they don't really want to do that for me, or
Right. So I actually, I'm glad that you brought that one up because I did a little research. So I watched a few videos on receiving, which was weird because when I was doing search on the word receiving, I should have not made it that broad because there was a lot of sports related, like how to receive in soccer and how to receive a proper pitch and whatnot. And a few of them were um, religious in theme, from people saying, when the world is trying to give you things, how you should receive from the universe, and accept those things. And then that just got very strange and very weird. But there was one specifically talking about that. If somebody gives you something because you do not know the motives behind it, and our first instinct, or some people's first instinct, is to say, what is the underlying reason why they're offering me this, right? For example, if you have something at school and you need $5, you might think maybe that person is offering you as saying, hey, I have the money, you probably don't have it. And you might feel a little uncomfortable about it. What I do, and what they were saying, is always think of what is it that is in your brain when you are giving this to somebody. And most likely, unless you're an evil person, is, hey, I just want to be nice. I just want to help you out. I learned from my parents to be giving without expecting receiving. So, just put yourself in that person's shoes.
that's really fair. I didn't really think about that. That's true.
Right.
I like that.
Okay, so I did jotted a few notes about this topic. And there's different tiers and different levels. Because one thing is to accept gum and coffee, or coffee from somebody, or somebody say, hey, let's go out and I'll treat you to some ice cream. That's good. And of course, we can discuss, who is it from or who is it with, your boyfriend, your spouse, grandma, a friend. But let's talk about receiving from a stranger. Okay, not total stranger. Maybe somebody that you know as somebody's mom or a friend of a friend. And so when somebody offers you something small, like a piece of candy, water, or you go to somebody's friend and the mom says, hey, can I serve you some lemonade? What is your first response?
I feel like it really depends on the circumstance. If I feel comfortable with them, my answer I feel leans more towards a yes. And if I don't, then it leans more towards a no. But if I'm trying to like impress somebody, like for example, I go to my friend's house and her mom is like, we have some candy out on the table, please go take one. I'll do that just to make her feel good about putting that candy on the table for whoever was there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's someone I'm less comfortable with, or someone that I'm not really like concerned about their like feelings, that sounds bad, sure. But like, I feel like it really, like my answer is really hard to predict. I don't know.
Okay. What about if somebody offers you something a little bigger? Like, you see, it's hard. It's kind of hard because, of course, we're talking about different people. Let's say that you visit a friend and then you guys go from there to somebody else's friend, like maybe her friend, and you actually do not know them. And you get to know them. So they're sort of casual acquaintance, if you want to call it that way. And that person, you go to their bedroom and look at a piece of jewelry. Oh my goodness, that's so nice! Such a nice necklace. And that person says, "Hey, you can have it. Will you take it?"
That is so tricky. I would feel so uncomfortable. I'd be like, no, thank you. I don't know.
Why would that be uncomfortable though?
Because it, to me, feels like, I don't know, some sort of obligation or something, which I guess goes back to initially what we were talking about with like, what are their motives for offering this? Mm-hmm. So I guess if they really didn't want to, they wouldn't have proposed that offering.
Right.
But it would just make me feel a little bit weird. Like, you don't need to give me anything yet. Like, it's okay.
So you think it's cultural?
I think it is. I don't know, because I noticed myself when I had my wisdom teeth out recently and Abuelita came over to come take care of me. It took a lot out of me to put in the effort to be like, no, she wants to be caring for me and like taking care of me, bringing me things, doing all these things. Like I can't say no right now. I can't politely decline because she is willingly offering and she wants to take care of me right now. She wants to buy me things. She wants to bring me the milkshake. So I just am going to say yes, and I'm going to just like be super gracious and accepting of that.
It sounds like a chore. It sounds like effort has to be put into receiving and accepting the gift.
That's why the episode is the skill of receiving. It's not just.
Yeah.
It's not that easy sometimes.
Correct. And how do you feel when somebody offers you something when you think that they're doing it because they're expecting something back?
Like, give me an example.
Okay, so yeah, that will be tricky because I'm thinking at your age, the people that you encounter will be friends, and most likely any friend of yours would not do it expecting anything back necessarily, except for the continuation of a friendship, of course. And then there's a boyfriend, and then there's parents and family members. So you don't really engage with strangers. I put that as a question here because one of the things that I was listening to had that situation where somebody is expecting something back and it's kind of annoying, and they said that for something like that you just don't respond or you politely decline. That might be the only few times that you should politely decline because you know the intent of that person. But the medium of the road, which is somebody offers you something like I put here a their favorite stuffed animal, or their favorite hoodie, a valuable pen, jewelry, their favorite vinyl record. I think that will be a little harder because I think that would be more of a that person wants to give something not just as an offering like gum, but something more like, hey, you made an impression in me right now, to the point that when you pointed out to me how much you like this stuffed animal, my impression of you in the moment makes me so happy to be part of this world, or being part of this emotional roller coaster that we had just from like hanging out or having a sleepover with somebody that you have never met before, or somebody that you know but that you have never really spent too much time on. And then the next morning, before you guys part ways, she gives you that stuffed animal that you lusted over, overnight at the party. I think that as hard as, in my opinion, as hard as it is to want to accept that, that's probably the one time that you should be even more grateful to receive and to actually accept with more gratitude. So in my notes, I put here that the amount of gratitude should be equivalent to the magnitude of the gift. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Do you also think that the answer to, or like you wanting to accept whatever somebody is offering, has to do with, in some sense, how much you want the item or whatever they're offering to you?
Oh, it's never about the item.
It's never?
For me, it's never about the item.
Because sometimes I feel like some items have a certain pressure to them that makes me like, sometimes I want it more, sometimes I want it less, but like, like if somebody gives you their favorite stuffed animal after a sleepover, I'm like, I can't just like throw this one under my bed and be like, oh, it's gonna have to be like, I love it, I sleep with it every night. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're not expecting
True.
something in return, but you do have to like put up some sort of energy to give them some sort of return and some sort of thanks for that item. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think I've been in a situation where I have to continue with the perpetual um, faking of the appreciation.
You've never had to fake it?
I guess so. For me, it's never about the actual item. For me, it's about making the connection and making sure that that person feels good about the gift that they have given me. So we went to North Carolina for a family trip to visit Bob, Grandpa, his brother in North Carolina. And then we went from staying at somebody's house, one of mom's aunt and uncle, and then we went to visit the other brother of Bob. And when we went to the house, in the basement of the house, the lady makes things out of clay, like bowls, mugs, coffee mugs, vases, all kinds of figurines. And she actually had coffee mugs that were, to me, special, one of a kind, three-legged. They don't stand very well. They're not very dependable when it comes to actually carrying coffee around, because they can, I think, tip over fairly easy. But I loved it, and not enough to one, but I keep making the gesture for how awesome it was. And I already had in mind, which I think is kind of evil or conniving, that I was going to get one. Not because I really wanted it, but because I wanted to make her feel good about the art that she made. And for me, I felt like I would have had accomplished my goal of making her feel so good about the art that she will give me one of those mugs. And I have it. It's upstairs. It's green. It's beautiful. And thank goodness it has stood the test of time. And it's never broken. And another example very quickly is coffee. When I go to my client's house, if they offer me coffee, I always say thank you. And then not only that, but I always tell them, oh my goodness, I'm so glad because I left my house without drinking coffee this morning. And now it's like an even greater sense of accomplishment that that person has for offering something that I needed in the moment. And to be honest with you, sometimes I wonder if that is actually not bad, but I don't know. Sometimes I'll feel a little bad, to be honest with you, that I go to the extreme of making something up just to make it better. I don't know. I don't know what you think about
No.
that.
Yeah, I understand. Does that come very naturally to you? Is that your initial immediate reaction, or did that take some time to learn or to turn into a habit?
You mean the lying and the deceiving or the
No, like just accepting things when they're offered to you.
got it? I don't know, but I do know that I have learned from books, from people and videos or whatever. Whenever somebody has
Yeah.
some sort of advice, the art of receiving has been something that that has been taught to me, and I am mindful about it. Like I am, as soon as somebody offers something, I'm hyper focused. I know what I'm gonna say. I come up with something clever to say in the moment, and it is um, just a way for me to connect with people immediately and for them to feel good. Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
that's how it comes about. But I don't think it came natural. Yeah, I would say naturally. I like to make people laugh. I like to make people feel good about themselves or whatnot. I also hurt people's feelings when I'm not feeling all that great and when I'm lashing out. But for the most part, my intention is usually to try to make people feel good, make them laugh, make them feel good about themselves. And sometimes I think I go a little overboard where I think one time one person called me out and they said that I fake my enthusiasm for conversations with a person in order to make them feel good. But that's the way that I like to make connections with
Yeah,
people.
for sure. So how much do you think is like a cultural difference? Like if you had to compare and contrast like a welcoming ritual in Puerto Rico versus here, how different does that look like with offering things, receiving things?
Okay, so I know there's a lot of comedians that do this. They they explain how like the Italian culture, the Jewish culture, Puerto Rican culture, Hispanic culture, there's a tendency of always having a like a multiple tier system for giving and receiving, right? Same thing with negotiating. So the giving and receiving is like, hey, have this. Oh no. Oh yeah, I have this. It's come on. And then for the third time, it's like, come on, it's yours. Okay, I'll take it. Um, I don't play that game, and I think Puerto Ricans naturally have a tendency of wanting to constantly offer things, and for people to say no, and then they know that they have to continue doing this. Um, and I don't know up to what extent culturally I have been influenced on how my receiving is done, but man, I always think like if I always put myself in the other person's shoes. If I'm offering something, it's because I want that other person to have it and receive it and feel good about it, and then I want that thank you back, and that's it. It's a very very easy transaction that some people have a hard problem to do. Have a hard time doing. Granted, again, we're discussing minor things. We can go deeper into like a relationship where the giving and receiving is a completely different dynamic that dealing with a stranger, dealing with a client, or dealing with a sister, for example,
Yeah,
or a
for
brother.
sure. I was just talking with my friend about this recently, just this topic in general, and it was the first time she'd heard about it. She was like, "What is this? This is crazy. This is groundbreaking." It was like really amazing to introduce that to her. And I mean, initially, the questions that pop up are like, "Oh, but what if I'm taking too much? Like, what if they start thinking that I just am there to like just receive things from them and never give anything back?" So, when it comes to relationships, especially like in high school, college years, what do you think, if you think there is a line between being a gracious receiver versus being almost like a gold digger, like somebody who's just out to let the other person get everything for them. You know what I mean? Because that's the hardest part. Because it's like, I really want to be a gracious receiver. And when things are given to me, to really take it and really be thankful for it and verbalize my gratitude and accept it and don't put up a fight and everything. And I think I've gotten really good at that over the years. But then is there a line to the point where somebody can be like, Alyssa, she's just always taken, and she, like she's always taking things from me. She's always like saying yes to what I offer, but it's kind of like taking a lot out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't really want to get into the so much into the difference in the relationship aspect for giving and receiving, but if we have to, then that's fine. And my response is going to be a little clouded to something that I listened to today, which was I watched, in preparation for this thing, I watched a video from a lady who it's all about, what is it that she called it? Feminine vibes or feminine power. No, it wasn't feminine power. I forgot what the word is that she used. But what she was trying to do, and I saw that in her channel, is more about how to be feminine and using feminine traits to have a great relationship with your husband or spouse or boyfriend. And so I looked up a video about receiving, and she said that there is a huge difference between how the receiving should be done from a woman to a man. And fascinating. I've never heard about this before, but it makes sense to me. And the thing that she said that to me it applies as true, and as speaking for anybody else, is we want to be the heroes. We want to be their caretakers. I want to be the hero. I want to be the caretaker. I want to be the one giving. And the receiving that I expect, the gratitude has to be equivalent to the gift giving. But it changes. Is very different. For example, in that video when she was talking about the difference between a man and a woman, she said that women should just say, thank you, appreciate it, and make the man feel good about what he has done. Because what the guy is trying to do, same with me, is that she is my prize. Like I want something, not in a physical, tangible, material way, but this woman is so incredible. I am the luckiest man alive. I'm gonna shower her with gifts, with protection, with love, with kids, with everything, like my queen. And all I really want is a feedback with, you're amazing. I love you. You're the best man I've ever known. Thank you for, protecting me, for giving me this, for making me feel pretty, for giving me compliments about my looks. And then in addition to that, physical, a kiss, a hug, a flirtatious look. And that's it. Now, when we're talking about the giving and the receiving, if you are in a relationship and you're constantly the one receiving like a gold digger and not giving back, that is definitely bad. The only difference is that I think that you have two things. Number one, how is it that you're going to give back? It cannot be equivalent. So money is not, if he's giving you money or supporting you financially, I don't think that's what he's expecting back. And if he gives you material things, that's not what he wants back either, will be my guess. So the idea is to find out what is it that is important and valuable to him and pay him with an equal.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So do you think that in order to be a gracious receiver, you have to take into consideration the other person's love languages? Like, I think that some of your big ones, I think that you show love a lot of times in acts of service, especially to us. But then the things that you described that you would prefer as an act of gratitude were words of affirmation and physical touch.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So do you think that it has to do with it? Do you think that your natural inclination to showing people love by doing acts of service is contributing to your perspective on giving in general? Because that's what you're naturally really inclined to be doing. Like making us all breakfast in the morning is an act of service, and that's giving us something that we receive. You know what I mean? Or you like going out of your way to do something for mom and then you wanting her to, you know, give words of affirmation or something? Or do you think that's generally what happens among most relationships in the giving and receiving dynamic?
No, left to my own devices, I would not do anything. I would just stay in bed every morning. So the things that I do most of the time well, out of responsibility for the things that I have to do, but also to lessen the burden on mom in the mornings. So yeah, it is, I think, twofold. Number one, my responsibility. Number two is to do something for her. And I do in return all I ask for her, to be honest with you. And it's not like I even asked for it, but it is praises, affirmation, you're the bestest, and then a hug and a kiss, and that's it. For me, that's plenty. Yeah. And I'm good. I think I am good at receiving. I think I am good at knowing when people have done something nice, at giving things, paying back. And I'm also very petty if I don't get those things that I'm supposed to be getting back from the doing the things that I'm supposed to do.
Right, because you want to be appreciated for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a child when it comes to my pettiness for not getting my due back. But it doesn't have to match what I have done. It just has to be recognized what I've done. But talking about kids and child mindsets, one of the videos that I was watching, the guy was talking about how we have an abundance of gratitude that will never empty, will never cease to exist. Meaning you can say thank you every single day. You can do acts of kindness every single minute if you wanted to. And we don't. And I sometimes struggle with that. I don't know why we feel like we cannot continue doing this naturally, to constantly be doing nice things for people, feeling grateful for people and for what they're doing and for what they're saying. When in reality, like a kid, for example, it doesn't matter how many times you tell a kid, nice job, or you did really good. Every time you do that or you say that, that kid is always going to feel good. They always feel good. And I think adults, it's the exact same thing. Adults will never get tired of hearing nice things about themselves, somebody being grateful, somebody saying thank you, somebody praising them for the good that they have done or for how they look. It's infinite, the amount of praises that we are able to receive and feel good about. And yet we don't do that as often as one should, knowing that that feeling is always there, that you can make somebody feel good by praising them.
I slightly disagree. I think that, I don't know, because personally, if somebody was saying, like, for the kid example, if somebody was saying something like, nice job, but to the equivalent to my age, like, you were doing so well in school, you're so pretty, blah, blah, blah. Like, if somebody was saying that to me frequently, I don't think I would value it as much as them saying it sporadically when they actually recognize it and do see that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't think that you could give somebody endless affirmations and it mean the same amount every single time. But also, I don't think that's my biggest love language either. You know what I mean? Like, people can say things to me all the time about how great of a person I am, and I do appreciate that. But them doing that for me every day isn't going to light up my world for the rest of the day.
Right. No, that makes sense.
So I don't know. Yeah.
What would you say is the most appropriate time to decline an offering of a present or something that somebody offers you?
I think that if you don't particularly want to continue the relationship, that would be a good time.
Okay.
Like, this example is very vague in my mind, but a friend was telling me about how this boy really liked her last year or something and would like offer to do things for her, and she like talked to her mom about it to try to figure out what to do, and they concluded that the only thing that she could say was to reject the offering of whatever it was, like, oh, can I bring you whatever to school today or something. And it was gonna have to be a no in order for him to kind of like,
Oof.
you know what I mean? Like, without actually rejecting him, but just being like, no, I don't really want to take things from you right now.
Wow.
So I think that would be a situation in which you should probably decline things from somebody.
So at the end of the day, I say yes. Say yes to an offering. Say yes to somebody trying to give you something. It doesn't have how big or small. I think that, again, if somebody's willing to do that, if you're willing to do that, you feel good about the person receiving and saying thank you and feeling that gratitude. So the same thing, I put myself in the other people's shoes, and that's what I would suggest anybody do. Always say yes to the offering. Be gracious, but only at the level of how important that gift is. If it is a piece of gum, say thanks and move on. Don't make a big deal out of it, but they are giving you their favorite stuffed animal, then you should hug the stuffed animal, give it a name on the spot or ask for its name, and make it a little bit of a big deal, because you're also trying to train other people to give you. And I think it just makes this place a better place, to be honest with you, to have somebody feel good about the giving, you good about the receiving. And if you don't feel good about the receiving, fake feeling good about it, because it's not going to hurt anybody, but you might hurt somebody's feelings if you say no to the offering, unless you're Italian and then you have to say no 3 times before you accept it.
I agree. Say yes when people give things to you, because if they're offering, that means they're willing, and then they feel good giving, and then you get something in return. I mean, even if you feel a little bit guilty for it, at least you're getting something. And I know a lot this week for Valentine's Day, random friends at school would like give me chocolate and stuff, and I just put on a big smile and was like, thank you so much. And especially one of my friends, I brought her hash browns on Valentine's Day morning.
From where?
McDonald's.
Oh, okay.
And you know, her face just lit up and she was so excited and told me that's exactly what she needed that morning, and I made her morning, and I was like, this is great. I'm going to do this all the time. This is great. She loved it, and I feel so good giving it to her. So that's usually what other people feel when they give to you. So might as well just say yes and make everybody happy, and maybe you'll get a hash brown out of it. I don't know.
And don't be a gold digger.
Facts.
All right. Thank you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.